July 9, 1944. Saipan, just after dawn. The air is thick with heat and cordite. You can taste the salt from the nearby Pacific, sharp on the back of your tongue, mixing with the sour smell of burned powder and churned earth. Somewhere in the jungle, a cicada screams, uninterrupted by the war that has swallowed this island whole. Private First Class Gael Gabaldon, United States Marine Corps, kneels in the dirt. His helmet is gone. His rifle has already been taken. Rough hands shove him forward, and he stumbles, catching himself before his face hits the coral-packed ground. Around him, Japanese infantrymen, more than he can count at first, fan out in a loose circle. Bayonets glint in the early light. Arisaka rifles are leveled, bolts closed with that unmistakable metallic click. You can almost feel the pressure closing in. Gabaldon is 19 years old. He has been behind enemy lines all night, moving alone through the broken terrain north of Garapan. His job was never meant to turn into this. He had gone out to scout, to listen, to slip back with information. That was how he'd been operating for days now. Quiet, invisible, trusting his instincts and the Japanese language he learned as a teenager living with a host family in Los Angeles. But the jungle has a way of changing plans. A sudden movement, a shouted warning, then hands grabbing him from behind. A rifle butt slamming into his shoulder. The world spinning just long enough for the realization to hit. I've been captured. Now, as the soldiers shout orders at one another, Gabaldon understands something else. Something colder. This isn't a prison detail. These men aren't escorting him anywhere. They are deciding how to kill him. An officer steps forward. His uniform is dusty, his expression flat, unreadable. He studies Gabaldon the way a butcher studies meat. A short exchange follows, sharp and fast. The words are Japanese, and Gabaldon understands every one of them. No need to take him back. Waste of time. Do it here. A few soldiers shift their footing. One fixes his bayonet with deliberate care, twisting it until it locks. Another grins, thin and nervous. Gabaldon's mouth is dry. His heart pounds so hard it feels like it might tear through his chest. He forces himself to breathe slowly, evenly, the way he was trained. Panic won't help him now. Panic never does. He lowers his eyes, playing the part they expect, defeated, resigned. But his mind is racing. He counts footsteps. He listens to the spacing of voices. He notes where the rifles are pointed, who is closest, who looks distracted, who looks eager. Years later, men would say it all happened too fast to believe. But in this moment, time stretches, elastic and sharp. 7 minutes. That is all it will take. The officer raises his hand. A soldier steps behind Gabaldon, jabbing him forward with a rifle barrel. He nearly falls again, then steadies himself. His hands are bound loosely, carelessly, with cord, not tight enough, not checked. A mistake. You can feel the tension coil tighter, like the jungle itself is holding its breath. Gabaldon's thoughts flicker, not to home, not to his mother, not even to fear, but to timing, to angles, to the simple truth drilled into every Marine. If you hesitate, you die. The officer barks a command. 2 soldiers step forward. One raises his rifle, muzzle inches from Gabaldon's chest. Another moves to the side, bayonet ready, in case the shot doesn't kill him outright. This is it. Gabaldon moves. He twists sharply, ripping his wrists apart as the loose cord snaps. At the same instant, he lunges sideways, slamming his shoulder into the rifleman. The shot cracks, but it goes wild, tearing into the trees behind him. Before anyone can react, Gabaldon is already moving again. He grabs the rifle, yanks it free, and fires point blank. The man drops. Shouts erupt. Chaos explodes into the clearing. Orders are screamed. Rifles swing wildly, some colliding with each other in this sudden confusion. No one expected resistance. No one expected this. Gabaldon doesn't stop. He fires again and again. He moves like a man possessed, fueled by instinct and desperation, closing distance before they can form up, using their own weapons against them. Each second matters. Each step forward keeps them off balance. You can almost hear his breath now, ragged, fast. Feel the ground slipping beneath his boots as bodies fall, as smoke and screams fill the air. The officer reaches for his pistol. He never gets the chance. In less than a minute, the clearing is no longer a circle. It's a slaughterhouse. Some of the soldiers try to run. Others freeze, minds overwhelmed by the sheer impossibility of what they're seeing. One unarmed American, moments from execution, turning death outward in every direction. Gabaldon takes a wound. He doesn't feel it yet. Adrenaline buries the pain deep. He keeps firing, keeps moving, keeps surviving. By the time the shooting stops, the jungle is silent again. 54 Japanese soldiers lie dead or dying in the dirt, and Gabaldon is still standing. He looks down at his shaking hands, at the blood, some of it his, most of it not, and realizes something that will follow him for the rest of his life. He was supposed to die here. Instead, he has just become a legend. But the battle is not over, because the noise has carried, and deeper in the jungle, others are already coming. The jungle does not keep secrets for long. Gunfire echoes differently here. Short, violent cracks that bounce off trees and ridgelines, ricocheting through the undergrowth like warning bells. Gabaldon knows at the moment the last shot fades. He can almost feel it traveling outward, rolling through ravines and foxholes, slipping into the ears of men who are trained to respond without hesitation. He doesn't celebrate. There's no time. He strips ammunition from fallen rifles with shaking hands, working by muscle memory alone. Clips, grenades, a sidearm. He forces himself to breathe again, deep and controlled, as the adrenaline begins to ebb just enough for pain to seep through. His shoulder burns. His leg feels wet. He looks down. Blood, dark and sticky, but not gushing, not yet fatal. He can still move. That's all that matters. Gabaldon disappears into the trees, just as voices begin to rise in the distance. Japanese troops are converging now. Small groups at first, then more, moving cautiously toward the clearing. They find the bodies moments later. 54 men, some shot at close range, others cut down where they stood, and no American corpse. Confusion ripples through them. Fear, too, though few will admit it, even to themselves. This isn't how war is supposed to work. One man does not do this. One prisoner does not break free and annihilate an entire execution detail. Whispers spread. Bake mono. Monster. Gabaldon hears none of it. He is already moving north. Slipping through terrain he knows better than they expect. He has been studying this jungle for days. Its rhythms, its blind spots, the places where patrols hesitate, and where sound dies quickly under heavy foliage. This is where he is most dangerous. Hours pass. Then night begins to fall, turning Saipan into a place of shadows and false shapes. The air cools slightly, but the tension thickens. Japanese patrols crisscross the area, searching not just for a marine, but for an explanation, for order, for reassurance that the world still makes sense. Gabaldon watches them from concealment, counting again. Not enemies this time, possibilities. He could try to break through to American lines. It's the safe option, the smart one. But safe isn't how Gabaldon has survived this long, and something else has begun to settle into his mind. An idea as dangerous as it is bold. He knows their language. He knows their fear. And after what happened this morning, they are already off balance. He waits until full darkness. Then he moves. Gabaldon steps onto a narrow trail, just as a small Japanese patrol approaches. 5 men, rifles slung loosely, nerves frayed. He doesn't fire. Instead, he calls out sharply, confidently, in flawless Japanese. "Halt! Who goes there?" The patrol freezes. For a split second, no one speaks. Then one soldier answers, confused but obedient, giving his unit designation. Gabaldon steps into view just enough for them to see his silhouette. Not clearly American, not clearly Japanese. Authority lives in tone more than uniform, and Gabaldon's voice carries command. "There has been an incident," he says. "A large American force is moving through this area. You are to withdraw and report immediately." The men exchange glances. One of them starts to question it, then stops. None of them want to be the one who delays. None of them want to be blamed for disobedience. They nod, bow slightly, and melt back into the darkness. Gabaldon exhales slowly. It worked. He does it again and again. Each time, the lie grows bigger. The American force grows stronger. Tanks, artillery, encirclement, death for anyone left behind. He paints pictures with words, feeding the dread already coiled tight inside exhausted minds. By midnight, The jungle is alive with movement, but not toward him. Away. Men abandon positions. Units pull back. Others surrender outright, stepping cautiously into the open with hands raised, trembling, half expecting death to come screaming out of the darkness. Gabaldon meets them calmly, weapon low, voice steady. He tells them where to go, what to do, how to survive. By dawn, hundreds are surrendering. American Marines advancing through the area can hardly believe what they're seeing. Enemy soldiers emerging from caves and trenches in numbers no one thought possible, all claiming the same thing. A lone American told us to give up. By the end of the operation, over 1,000 Japanese soldiers and civilians have surrendered because of Guy Gabaldon, one teenager, one Marine. But legends are never welcomed easily. When Gabaldon finally reaches American lines, filthy, wounded, eyes hollow with exhaustion, officers stare at him in disbelief. Reports are filed, numbers questioned, stories challenged. No one wants to believe that the chaos of the last 24 hours traces back to a single man. And then someone asks the obvious question. If this is all true, an officer says slowly, why aren't you dead? Gabaldon doesn't answer right away, because the truth is more complicated than heroism, and because what happened in that clearing, what he did, and what it cost him, has only just begun to follow him. Morning light exposes everything the night tried to hide. Gabaldon sits on an ammunition crate near the command post, shirt cut away from his shoulder, as a Navy corpsman works silently, efficiently. The sting of antiseptic makes him flinch for the first time since the clearing. Now that the danger is past, the pain arrives all at once, deep, throbbing, undeniable. Around him, officers talk in low voices. Numbers are repeated, then repeated again. Over 1,000 surrendered. Civilians too. He did it alone? The words drift past Gabaldon like smoke. He stares at the dirt between his boots, watching ants struggle under the weight of crumbs larger than their bodies. His hands are still trembling, though he keeps them clenched to hide it. Survival has a price. A colonel finally steps in front of him, blocking the light. He's older, his face cut deep with lines that war has etched there over decades. He looks Gabaldon up and down, not with admiration, not yet, but with calculation. Private First Class Gabaldon, he says. Start talking. So Gabaldon does. He talks about the capture, the execution detail, the mistake with the bindings, the way panic turned into motion before fear could stop it. He describes the clearing in blunt, efficient terms, distances, angles, weapons used. He doesn't embellish. He doesn't dramatize. He leaves out how close he came to freezing, to dying in the space of a heartbeat. The officers exchange looks as he speaks. This isn't bravado. This is a report. When he finishes, the colonel exhales slowly. You realize, he says, that if this checks out, you just did the work of an entire battalion. Gabaldon shrugs, wincing as his shoulder shifts. I just didn't want to die, sir. That answer lands heavier than any boast could have. Over the next days, his story is verified piece by piece. Patrols confirm the bodies. Prisoners repeat the same account independently. Same voice in the jungle, same warnings, same American who spoke like one of them. Some even recognize Gabaldon when they see him, eyes widening with a mix of fear and relief. The nickname spreads quietly among the Japanese captives, the Pied Piper. To them, he wasn't a killer. He was a way out. For the Marines on Saipan, Gabaldon becomes something else entirely, a symbol of how the war here is being fought, not just with firepower, but with psychology, language, and nerve. Men slap his back. Officers nod at him with something close to respect. But at night, when the island goes quiet again, Gabaldon doesn't sleep. He sees the clearing. He hears the first shot go wide, feels the rifle in his hands, counts the seconds whether he wants to or not. 7 minutes that replay again and again, sharper each time. He starts to wonder why he lived when 54 others didn't. The war doesn't give him time to dwell on it. Within days, he's back in the field. The fighting on Saipan grinds on, cave by cave, ridge by ridge. Japanese resistance hardens as defeat becomes inevitable. Orders are clear. No surrender. Civilians are told lies about what Americans will do to them. Families throw themselves from cliffs rather than be captured. Gabaldon steps into that horror repeatedly, calling out in Japanese, risking sniper fire every time he raises his voice. He promises safety, food, medical care, life. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. He watches mothers clutch children as explosions echo behind them. He sees soldiers wrestle with shame and indoctrination, torn between survival and what they've been taught since childhood. Each surrender feels like a small victory against something far bigger than bullets. By the end of the battle for Saipan, Gabaldon is credited with the capture of more enemy soldiers than any single American serviceman in the entire Pacific War. The paperwork reflects it. The history books eventually will too, but recognition is slow. When recommendations for the Medal of Honor are submitted, they stall, get downgraded, lost in the machinery of command. Some officers can't believe the numbers, others believe them, and are uncomfortable with what they imply. One man wasn't supposed to matter this much. Gabaldon is awarded the Silver Star, later upgraded to the Navy Cross, one of the highest honors for valor. It's presented formally, with handshakes and photographs, but something is missing. He stands at attention, hearing the citation read aloud, feeling oddly detached, because medals don't quiet memories. They don't shorten 7 minutes that stretch across a lifetime. Years later, when people ask him how he did it, how one American survived execution and turned it into legend, he never talks about courage. He talks about fear, about understanding the enemy, about choosing to move when staying still meant death, and about the sound of gunfire in the jungle, how it carries farther than anyone expects. Because on Saipan, in the summer of 1944, that sound didn't just signal a fight. It changed the course of lives, and it ensured that one name, Gabaldon, would never fade quietly into history.